Welcome to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL, 950 AM, 100.3 FM, and you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com, and we are here with Douglas Beaumont in our interview, which I actually did last week. We're continuing this interview where he talks about his latest book, which is The Message Behind the Movie Reboot, and it comes to us from Ignatius Press. And here he talks about how, regardless of what movie that you may be watching, you can draw a Christian message out of it. And we talk about a couple movies that were really interesting in their focus. One of them that I always bring up, and even in my books and everything, is a movie called Event Horizon. Rated R. It is a horror movie, but when I happened to see it, it really reflected to me St. Augustine's teaching on evil, and I was fascinated by this, and I discussed that in this interview. And then he brings up the movie Seven, which really also illustrates something that we have to know. When we are rooted in the truth, we can discern truth from falsehood, but when we aren't, we can easily get lost in deceptive arguments. So that's part of what we can hear in this particular part. Again, the book is The Message Behind the Movie Reboot from Douglas Beaumont. Let's go over. As the book brings out, if you're looking for a nice, pristine story, the Bible is not your source, because you're going to find all kinds of very similar stories of all types, yet we use the Bible it all gives us a spiritual background, but at the same time, movies we can look at within a spiritual context, which I always do. I don't care how secular the movie is. I always get some kind of spiritual background for it, and I think one of the best examples, you kind of bring it up in Contact. I found Contact, when I first saw it, really spoke a lot about the reality of God, even though the author was an atheist. And you kind of touch on that.
Yeah, I think the movie was actually, from what I hear, I haven't read the book, but I hear that the movie was a bit more fair to Christianity than Sagan's original book. But yeah, I think, overall, I mean, there was a couple inconsistencies that we could probably nitpick at, but overall, it was just nice to have a Christian character in a movie that wasn't an idiot, wasn't secretly, evil. This was a fairly decent representation of a fairly liberal Christian that, at least had the belief in the existence of God, which is really, like, I think that's kind of the main issue of the film. It's not really Christianity per se, but just God's existence at all. And yeah, he had some good things to say. And if you follow the protagonist's line, I mean, really at the end, she does kind of advance in her spirituality. I mean, she certainly doesn't get baptized Catholic, but, overall it is kind of a faith-affirming movie.
And one of the things that I teach often is that atheism makes no logical sense, because you have to say, I see all of reality, and I did not see God, therefore God does not exist. However, Contact really opens that door to say, do we really see all of reality, which is the beginning of that whole question of faith.
Yeah. It's some people will say it like, in order to know that there's no God, you would have to know everything, and then you would be God. But
oh, that's a good point. I never thought of that way.
I do think that, when you get to a certain level of philosophy that most people have zero interest, for good reason, in getting to, there are some philosophical arguments against the existence of God that are at least in possibility, they could disprove his existence without knowing everything. But I think for the average person on the street, what they're really saying is, I know enough about reality to know that God doesn't exist, or at least have a pretty good idea of that. And that's where I think, Peter comes in and says, you need to be ready with an answer. So the second half of this book, just for people that don't know, really tackles some of the main issues that Christians should be able to converse upon, using film as a springboard for the conversation. And so one whole entire chapter is devoted to the existence of God.
as I'm looking over my notes here, and I looked at some of the movies that you touched on and stuff, the Da Vinci Code, and I'm kind of looking at my notes and how you touched on that and stuff. Yeah. I know what it was. Oh, I'm getting an echo here. I loved The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I think it was a powerful story, and adds to it that it was a horror story, but that just added to it. It still was a wonderful story.
Yeah, I think that is a very underrated film. It's kind of unfortunate. I think that the original movie, The Exorcist, kind of soured audiences to any kind of movie with the word exorcist in there. You just don't even want to see that again. I thought the original Exorcist was very good in many ways, including the message. But the style elements that you have to put yourself through in order to get that message, are a lot for many people. Whereas the Exorcism of Emily Rose is very tame. I mean, it's still terrifying, but it's terrifying in that old school horror way where, it's what you don't see many times that is far scarier than, someone spitting pea soup out of their mouth. And yeah, the screenwriting, I mean, the acting, it's all just very well done. And the message is just absolutely dead on. I mean, I don't think you could get a better single line gospel message than, one of the last lines of that film. And it hits all the, punches all the cards for me.
I will just tell a little side story. And that was when I saw the movie. There's a scene, and I won't give it away, but there was a very climactic scene where horses whinny. And as I said, if you've seen Young Frankenstein, it ruins that scene.
Frau Blucher. Yeah.
Yes, I know. It just ruins the scene. Oh my! And I actually mentioned it to a youth group. They asked me about it, and I said that line, and they all looked at me and went, "Young Frankenstein." And went, "Oh boy."
Yeah, we're definitely revealing our age with any knowledge of Mel Brooks. So.
Yes. Do you know one of the most powerful stories I ever it's not in here. I wouldn't expect it to be in here. Powerful movies I ever saw, and it is rated R, and it is something I warn people that it's rated R. However, I saw it as the dramatization of St. Augustine's teaching on evil, and that is Event Horizon. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I did see it, but it was quite a while ago. I couldn't tell you much. I know it involves some kind of alien possession of people. Is that right? It's been a while. I couldn't tell.
Well, what it is, and it's really, when you read this whole scene, you go, it's so fascinating. But, I warn people it's rated R, so and you have to understand that because it's a horror movie. But it really does. What it does is they are in the universe where everything is all as it's supposed to be, all in order. But in order to get to the other side of the universe, because they can't travel at the speed of sound, they have to go to a part that's all chaos. And that's where that scene you talk about. As a matter of fact, they had to cut about 30 minutes of the movie out because they were so good at portraying evil as the story goes. And I looked at that. I said, that's exactly what St. Augustine taught. You leave, and I teach it all the time to, if God is good and you walk away from God, where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And it illustrated it so well, but it is a horror movie. It's rated R. It's not something you would take the family to by any stretch of the imagination.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I came to largely the same conclusion with Seven. That
you brought up in the movie, yes.
Yeah, older movie as well, but you talk about depictions of evil. One of my favorite scenes is when, I won't give anything away either, but they finally kind of have the bad guy caught, and he starts arguing with them about whether or not what he did was even wrong. And it's amazing because he has such an outlandish position. It's just impossible that this guy could possibly be doing good with what he's done, and yet the police officers can't really argue with him. It's just astounding. This is where we are as a society. That these guys have no moral footing, and it's gosh, this guy's making good sense, and he's insane, or is he?
Yes, yeah, no, excellent. You're right. I like I said, I didn't see the movie, but I read your. Of course, I read the book, but I read your chapter on it, and yeah, and that one of the things that pops in mind, that's almost the way evil works. because
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly what the devil does to Eve. Did he really tell you? It's able to do that.
Yeah, you get some arguments in there that don't quite sound as ridiculous as you might have thought they would have at first. And next thing you know, it's like, well, I don't know what to say to you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And these are as you bring out in the movie, or rather in the book, when you can talk about that and then kind of draw that out, that really adds a dimension to it. So we can see the movie, then we can say, draw something like that out, because the movies, regardless of the movie, will always be about good and evil. You're listening to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL 950 AM 100.3 FM. And you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. We'll be right back right after this. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with the final part of our interview with Douglas Beaumont, author of The Message Behind the Movie Reboot from Ignatius, and also now a faith formation director in Modesto, California. We will see you then. In the meantime, have yourself a blessed day. If you would like to support our program, please consider a donation to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. There are several ways to consider this. One is to purchase any of our merchandise, which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. There are coffee mugs there. There's also my latest book, Encounter Christ in Your Humanity, all of which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also donate to the show directly through either the Donate tab, also at CatholicAudiomedia.com, or by sending a donation through the U.S. Postal Service with your questions and comments at 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Finally, the best way you can support our parish is to attend Mass on Sundays at 10 o'clock and be a part of our parish. We thank you for any support you would like to give to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, the sponsoring parish for this media outreach to Catholics and other Christians in the WROL, WEZE, and podcast listening audience. In Cristo vivimos.